I was born in Naples, Italy. I had two sets of grandparents. I came to the States with my mother in April, as they say. I was just a few months old. I went to live with my grandfather and grandmother Thomas in South Middleborough, and I lived there until I was 3. I moved up to Rock Village and went to live with the other grandparents. My mother went back to teaching, and she became principal of the elementary school, Pilgrim Memorial in Wareham, and so she would commute back and forth. But she wanted me to get a really good start again, and she brought me down every day when she went to school from Rock to Wareham, and I was in the 3rd grade, and I really enjoyed it down there. I was very proud of her, and it was meant that she'd be a teacher. She taught for years. She taught in Milton for 35 years before she retired. My mother was a beautiful woman. Oh, just beautiful. When I was a junior in high school, I dropped out and I went to work in a restaurant as a waitress. And I worked 80 hours a week, 1 week, 48 the next. I got $8 a week, and of course, being a waitress, you get tips. Well, the tips in the Depression were few and far between. On my days off, every other week in the summer, I would get on the bus, put a nickel in the bus, and go to Ashmont, put another nickel in, and go out and get the Green Line, and go out to the field so I could go and see the baseball game. Madeline, was my mother's sister, baby sister, and she married this wonderful person that became my uncle and my godfather, and he was so wonderful to me. And when I got married, he gave me away. My mother-in-law eventually, all told, had 10 children. And John was the oldest. And he was always, they called him Tinker because he was constantly working on engines and things like that. He was always Big Brother. That's how we call him. And then once in a while, growing up, he'd say, "Come on up," and he'd have like stuff like this, and he'd play music, and up in the Cunningham Park, we had a big hall. It was meant just for the kids, So he was a lot of fun to be with, and we always had a good time. I didn't have to sit there and try to figure out what I was going to say next to keep the conversation going, And I felt very comfortable. When I was little, somebody, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I used to say, "I want to be a mother. I want a lot of children." I had Jackie in December. And then a couple years later, Jill was born. And we had bought the house across the way to family in Milton that his grandfather had built. I really enjoyed it. I mean, that was my life, and it was fun. And Jill was the one that went and raced boats and did this. Jack is the one that got good marks, wanted to go to college. Jackie, I remember when we lived in Holly Hill, we bought her a 2-wheeler, and all the kids in the neighborhood could not maneuver one. I mean, they couldn't handle it, her age. She was just in the 1st grade. She got on that thing and she's going all around, Uncle Buddy, he was cute. He was just a little boy, and He was a little diddle at times. I remember we were having supper one night, and I used to keep the key way up high, and the only way you could get it would be if you were real tall. And all of a sudden, we were all sitting there, and you could hear a screech of brakes out in front. We lived on Route 18. And I ran in the chair. He had put the chair up and got the key. He was going to cross the street. Jill had been to a wedding, I think, and she said she met the nicest boy. He called on the phone, I remember, and he said he was just in the neighborhood. He thought he'd come by and check. So I thought, oh yeah, sure. Anyway, I opened the door and I took one look at him, and he introduced himself, and he came in and they talked for a long time. I went off. And then I did speak to him, and I said to him, it was getting really bad out, and I was a little bit nervous about the driving. He had to go to Plymouth, of course. And I said, do me a favor, would you, when you go home, would you just ring once on the phone and we know you're okay? I didn't know he didn't have a phone at home. He went into a payphone, but I turned to Jill and I said, that's the one. It's just something about him right away, and he's a sweetheart. I love him. Wonderful. I was lucky. I had the two best sons-in-law you'd ever want to have. I always say that. I loved Jim. And Billy, too. He was the easiest guy to get along with, and everybody in the police department loved him. He was a wonderful boy. Well, I have Shannon, John, Graham, Shelley, but that's the best time in my life. I used to have so much fun, you know, when I was working, and they were little. And like Shannon, when she was little, I would come and drag her out. She was about 5 years old, 6 years old. And we'd go into Boston. And we'd sit there, and I think the funniest thing, and she'd say, oh, this is so classy. Yeah. But when Shelley came, we were busy doing things with the tenants and got involved, and she used to come up, and we'd have a big bash out there at the beach, and we went on the carousel. Well, I was all set, and I got up on one of the big lions, you know, and I'm straddled across, and all of a sudden I said, oh no, I don't think I'll do this. I got off and sat in the seat. But we really had a good time, didn't we? But that was so cold that day. And then I dragged them over to Quincy. We go to the stores and go shopping and do things. And it was a fun time with them. The house in Milton, I used to have them big dinners up there, the holidays and things like that. But then they would come up and stay overnight. And I really enjoyed them. Jackie's father-in-law, he was my buddy, my dancing partner and my buddy. And she called him Papa too, didn't you? Yeah, Graham called him Papa. And Graham also gave me the name of the Gaga, because he was carrying on a conversation in the back seat when we were coming up from Bolton. We'd gone supposedly to pick apples, but we bought them. And he kept saying Gaga, you know, like Gaga. And then he's screaming at me. And Walter said, don't you know what he's doing? And I said, what? He said, he's calling you Gaga. I thought, oh dear God. And he said, isn't that great? Papa and Gaga, what a pair. And it was a lot easier after a while for Shannon, because I remember calling her once and she said, "Who's this?" I said, "Grandma." "Which one?" So now after that I would say Gaga. So I've been Gaga ever since. Sean, we had him out one night and everything was, "Yook it! Yook it!" And he yelled out to somebody, "God did that." He'd point up at the moon. And so we kept going, going in, we went over to Stop and Shop. When we came out, and we were walking down, and this gentleman got out of the car, and he goes, "Hi," and I said, "Hi." It was one of the bus drivers that I took to work every day, And Sean goes, "Yook it, yook it," and he kept pointing. He said, "God did that." Well, every time the bus driver would see me, he'd be yelling, "Yook it, yook it." God did that. I thought, oh boy. But he was so cute. Graham always wanted to walk around the neighborhood. And we in Milton, there were so many side streets, and all these old houses. And he'd scoot in, this is summertime, he'd scoot up on the porch and start to talk to people, introduce himself.
Thank you all. I appreciate this. I think it's wonderful. And they used to say to me in the hospital, "You have such a lovely family." And I said, "You haven't met them all." So it's true. I am so blessed. I've always known that. And that goes for my adopted ones too.
All right, now what did they teach you? Breathe in. Breathe out.